Hi everyone, we'll give it a couple more minutes just so everyone else can join and then we'll start the session. Hi everyone, welcome to our really exciting MOOC planned for today on interviewing like a star with Natwest. Backstage, you have me, Krupa. I'm a Code First Girls brand ambassador. I've done several Code First Girls courses throughout the years that have really helped me in my career. So I'm really looking forward to giving back to the community as an ambassador. So if you have any questions about Code First Girls, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll try and get to them towards the end of the session. Before we start though, I'd like to talk about a really exciting opportunity that we have called the Nano Degree in case you haven't heard of it. The Nano Degree is offered by Code First Girls and it's an intensive program for serious students such as career switchers or students currently finishing who are looking to move into tech. We currently have data, software, and full stack roles. It's a 12 to 13 week intensive program fully funded by our sponsors, such as Natwest. Natwest will be sponsoring positions in data and software in both London and Edinburgh. The applications for that actually open this Friday, so feel free to keep an eye out. I'll put the link of that in the chat as well. It'll be 3 times a week, so 3 evenings a week, so you'll be able to do this alongside your full-time role. There will be homeworks and courseworks included as well. It's honestly such a great opportunity to have a fully funded program with a potential job lined up at the end of it. I'll add the link in the chat, but feel free to let me know if you have any questions. So we should get started with the session. So from NatWest, we have Fran Carroll, who has been in the bank for around 21 years, starting off in an account manager center, sending off checkbooks and statements. He's worked in various roles, working directly for executives in a business manager capacity, commercial credit, performance and finance roles, and is currently working in business enablement and effectiveness, looking to develop and drive strategic workforce plans across technology and wider service business, including leading on NatWest classes and the Nano Degree for Code First Girls in 2022. So I will add Fran to the stream. Hi, Fran.
Hi, Cooper.
Welcome to the MOOC today. We're really looking forward to the session that we've got planned. So let's just get started.
Brilliant, thank you. So you've got the slides, great. So hello and evening everyone. As Cooper said, my name's Fran and I'm delighted to be here this evening to talk about competency-based interviews with NatWest. Just struggling with the slides a sec.
Hi, Fran. Should we try the slides again?
Yeah, I think we're struggling to pick them up, Krupa, at the moment.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll remove it from the stream and then we can
Thank you.
try and add it on again. Brilliant. Hopefully that helps.
No, we're still stuck.
Uh-oh. No worries. Okay, so do you wanna get rid of that screen? So just stop sharing if you can. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Brilliant. Okay. Perfect.
Right. Thanks, Krupa. So, purpose of today's MOOC is obviously around STAR technique and interviewing like a star. So we're going to talk about purpose, and you'll hear purpose quite a lot within Natwest. But the purpose of today's MOOC is to understand a bit more about Natwest purpose, and why we interview using a competency-based methodology. So our purpose is to champion potential, helping people, families, and businesses to thrive. It allows us to build deep, lasting relationships with our customers, and that's the best way for us to help them succeed. As a purpose-led learning organisation, we need to recruit people with the right capabilities, knowledge, skills, and experience, but also with a learning mindset. This ability and motivation to continually learn, reflect, share, and collaborate will make sure that we can upskill and reskill to help our customers and communities and each other to thrive. And I think if you just bear those in mind as we come through later on in the presentation, we'll just give you a flavour of the areas to kind of focus on when preparing for your interview. So the agenda for today, what to expect as part of a competency-based interview, how to prepare, what are the type of questions that you will be asked, what is the STAR technique, what to consider when undertaking a virtual-based interview, and generally within Natwest that will be via Zoom. And then finally, we'll come on to Q&A. So what is a competency or capability-based interview? So it's a structured interview that tests your competence, i.e. how have you reacted or performed in specific situations in the past. It allows the interviewer to find out whether you have the right experience, expertise, mindset, and cultural fit for the organisation. So it's important that you select and talk about specific examples that you can really demonstrate those behaviours. It gives you the opportunity to demonstrate certain behaviours and experiences that may be required for the role that you have applied for. And it's important that you talk about what you have done, the actions that you took, and any considerations that led you to make that specific decision. So as I say, I think it's all about what you have actually done yourself as an individual. So it's fine to be part of a team and talk about activities that you have undertaken as a team. But the real bit that you need to get to is the actions and the results of the work that you have done, have driven. So this slide's quite interesting. Why use competency-based interviews? So it just shows the difference between a traditional style interview and a capability or competency-based interview. So you'll see on the left-hand side, the traditional style interview. Generally, around about 10% of that interview shows an indication of future performance, whereas a capability-based interview, much more of that is evidence-based and really focuses on your own development and what you can actually bring to the table. So how do I prepare? So it's really important that you research the company that you have applied for, as this shows the interviewers that you have taken the time to do some research about what the company stands for in terms of purpose, climate, diversity, inclusion, and these are just some examples. Sources of those can be through company website, social media, news, websites, and obviously Google is the main one for that. Practice a comfortable answer when asked the question of why you have applied for this role. Think about your motivations and what do you want to develop in and learn, and what can you bring to the business area. It's quite a good idea to brainstorm scenario-based examples that you could use in the interview. Try and structure an answer with a degree of detail and explain clearly what were the actions that you undertook and why was that important. Be specific. Give as much detail as you can. Try to ensure you discuss all internal and external factors that played a part in the situation. Reflect on how you performed and how you felt emotionally throughout. Try and give different examples for each question. Generally, you'll be asked 3 or 4 questions, but it shows a breadth of experience and that you're really thinking about the question, weighing up different experiences to give the best answer. And I think just on that is obviously once you're in the interview, it's a good idea to write down the question just so you can refer back to it. So if you've not been through the situation before due to limited work experience, use other examples from your personal life or study, or as a last resort, explain how you think you would perform in a hypothetical situation. Think of questions that you could ask the interviewers. The interview isn't just an opportunity for us to get to know you better, but it's also an opportunity for you to see if you're right for this role. You can ask us more about the job, culture, team, training, progression, or anything else that you'd like to know about the company or the business or the individuals itself. To really set yourself apart from other candidates, reach out to the person who has advertised the role prior to interview. Introduce yourself, ask questions about the role, the team, day-to-day tasks, and any required skills or qualifications that you may well need. So the STAR technique. So this is a method to prepare and answer competency-based questions. We'll be looking for examples of past experience that demonstrate your typical behaviour at work. And this is because past behaviour is a good predictor of future behaviour. So STAR is an acronym. S, situation, or the background to the example. T for task, an example of the task that you had to complete. A for action, the specific actions that you undertook as part of that task. And R, results, the result of your actions. And it's important to focus, as I say again, on your role and what you did. Try to resist the temptation to talk about we, us, and the team. So we've got a couple of examples, and I'll read them out and just pause for 20 seconds. You may want to take note of these questions just so you can maybe go away and prepare at a later date. So tell me about a time when you supported another team member who was struggling to meet a deadline. I'll just read that again, and it's quite okay to ask for the interviewer to repeat the question if you just need to give yourself a little bit of time throughout the interview. So tell me about a time when you supported another team member who was struggling to meet a deadline. So the example of an answer towards that question. Tell us about your experience and what it is that you did. We'll ask some follow-up questions. So you could say, I asked my colleague what they needed support with and when exactly the task needed to be completed by, so as to divide up the work according to both our skill sets and thus maximise efficiency by working to our strengths. I kept my colleague updated on my progress and made sure to ask if they needed any extra support when I finished my part early. I helped my colleague meet their deadline in time. So there you've got the situation, the task, the action, and the result. You don't need to go into war and peace on every single example. And that's why you need to be really concise and get as much detail into your answer as possible, meeting all the questions that may be asked. And that's why I say it's a good way just to write down the question prior to giving your example, just so you can tick off the bits that you may not have missed. So here's the second example question. Again, please try to answer this in your own time after today's session. Tell me about a time when you identified a new way of working or process to support your team. I'll just leave that there for 20 seconds. Okay, so your answer should be tailored to what you did, but should reflect what impact that had on the team. So again, another example, I realised that the existing process was very repetitive and manual, and spoke to my colleague about the possibility of automating the task based on specific parameters so as to save time on the overall task for future. I worked together with the team to implement the new process, and this freed us up to work on other tasks and work more effectively as a team. The new process was incorporated into the workflow for future projects. So again, looking at the situation, the task, the action, and again, really important, the actual result. So key considerations for virtual interviews. As I say, Zoom is the method that we've used since around March 2020. Other companies may have different mediums, but we tend to use Zoom. So Zoom is a video conference tool and can be used via mobile, tablet, and desktop. You don't have to have Zoom account to use or to join a Zoom meeting. You can join a meeting by downloading the app on your mobile or tablet and entering the meeting code that's supplied to you by the interviewer. So hints and tips for virtual interviews. When joining a video conference meeting, make sure that your device has a camera function and that it's switched on throughout. Make sure you've got good internet connectivity and that your device is fully charged so you'll be able to complete your interview without disruptions. Make sure you find a quiet room where you'll be able to hear your interviewer and they'll be able to hear you. And this one's quite important because, as I said, the interview's a two-way thing. So the interview slot should be suitable for both parties. We want to see you and have your full focus. If the initial slot isn't suitable or something has come up last minute, reach out and discuss this with your interviewer, and we'll do our best to accommodate you so that we can get your best possible answers. And I think just one final point on that, just an example of something that a colleague of mine went through. So March 2020, Zoom meetings and interviews were very new to everyone. So I know someone that got all dressed up, was all ready to go. Lovely shirt, nicely ironed, nice jacket, ready for the interview process. 5-10 minutes into the interview, the doorbell goes, which is Amazon, which is generally what it is these days. So the guy got up to go and answer the door and then realised that he had tracksuit bottoms on underneath. So just beware of your attire, just in case any of those last minute hiccups may come about. And again, just treat the Zoom interview as you would a face-to-face interview. And I think with that, that's the end of the presentation today. So thank you for that. And we'll just move to Q&A, Krupa.
Hi, Fran. That was really great. Thank you. So many good tips. Just for everyone who's watching, you can actually watch this back for around a week or so. So feel free to take some more notes additionally if you didn't catch it all during the session. So we've actually had a couple of questions. I guess one of the first questions is, let me just put that up. So when you're interviewing, if you're talking about a technical topic when you answer a question, how do you prevent from going into too much detail about it whilst trying to explain it?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult one, Matt. It's a great question. I think just try and focus on a certain area. Obviously, read the question, reread the question in your own mind, and just try and keep it as succinct and concise as possible. There will be occasions, there will be answers that do require a slightly longer answer, especially if you're talking technically. So don't be afraid to go into further detail. I think that's the only thing I can really say on that. Don't be afraid. I think the interviewers will probably stop you if you're going too far, and just bring you back in line. But just try and get the key points.
That's a very good point. I think just like most people, I tend to sort of scramble and ramble on about trying to hit all the points of the STAR method, and it turns out that I'm actually just telling them a full-blown story by the end of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really important to just make sure you bring across the key point that you're trying to do. Then we've got another question, which is, how do I show confidence during an interview?
Another great question. I think a lot of that is around your body language. We're all putting on an act at the end of the day, and I think just be yourself. Prepare yourself thoroughly. Do as much research as possible so that you know your answers, or you know your topic as best you can. Everyone knows that everyone's going to be nervous throughout an interview process. So I think that the Natwest interviews will be as relaxed as possible. So in terms of confidence, just be yourself, and just prepare thoroughly.
That's a very good point. Now we've got another question from the chat as well. What are Natwest looking for in the candidates? So what are you looking for during an interview? What should the candidates be sort of exuding?
So I think the one thing that will always really stand out is your motivation. So I think that the competency-based questions will focus on what you've done, what you're looking to achieve, but then you've got the added element around your motivation. And I think because some of the areas will be quite junior level, so you may not have the relevant experience. Experience can be taught, and we can train and we can develop people. And I think the one thing that you really need to show is the motivation to actually want to do the job and to know about the company and to be able to excel in the role that you're applying for.
That's a very good point. So I guess more along the sides of this, of the nanodegree applications, a lot of the people coming into the nanodegree will be people who don't have much computer science background. Are you sort of looking for people who have had some experience, people who have done their own projects and such, or what sort of experience are you looking for?
So we're looking for a wide range of experience, as I say. We know not everyone's going to come in with, we're looking at career switchers, we're looking at junior talent. So we'll look across the spectrum. If you've got the motivation to learn and develop, I think that's the one real key point that we really need to get across, or you really need to get across, and that will obviously be taken into account during the interview.
Brilliant. Yeah, I agree. Now we've got another question is, when should I start preparing for an interview?
Another great question. I think for me personally, I think I'd start preparing for an interview as soon as possible, just to give yourself some time to reflect on your answers, refine your answers, and you never know when an interview may crop up. So I think it's always good to have a booklet or a document with some potential answers for competency-based interviews. And again, you'll just keep refining that. The more experience you get, the more work that you undertake, the more projects that you do, the more qualifications that you get. Each time you go through that process, keep updating that booklet or that guidance pack, whatever it is you want to call it. Keep updating it, keep going back to it, keep revising, and just keep refreshing it as soon as you come across something that you think may actually help you in an interview.
That is definitely such a great point. I remember when I was sort of trying to interview for my positions earlier, I'd actually do a similar thing of just keep a note of some values or traits that the company is looking for, and making a note of how I can show those examples.
Yeah.
So sort of leading on from that, I guess we can answer this both ways. Do you have any examples of how not to answer STAR interview questions? So if you've had any bad examples, and on the flip side, do you have any examples of some great STAR interview questions?
So I think how not to answer STAR interview questions, I think this comes back to the point in the presentation around talking about the team. This is all about you. So this is all about work that you've undertaken. There doesn't have to be a huge amount. It doesn't have to be the greatest project in the world. You just need to get across, again, going on to the STAR technique, situation, the task, the action, and again, the result. So focus on you, focus on the work that you did, and don't start leaning towards work that other people have undertaken. It's difficult to give an example of a great answer or even a poor answer, but I think it's just important to focus on you and the activity that you've undertaken.
I think that's great. So this question can also be a double-sided question as well. So when an interview asks for your best quality and how it will help you in your role, how do you make sure you give an answer that isn't too generic? And at the same time, when an interviewer asks you what your greatest weakness is, how should you tailor that to what you're applying for?
So I think this all comes down to actually understanding the role, I think, and you really need to tailor your answer to the role that you're looking for. So what would your best quality be? Tailor it to the role, and just ensure that, again, if you come back to your weakness, the standard one will be communication. So that can be a weakness or it can be a positive, because you've identified that it's a weakness and you're actually looking to develop and improve on that weakness. So I think just the other thing is just be honest with yourself, because you'll soon get found out. Just really think about what it is that you're really good at and how you can bring that and develop that in your role.
Brilliant, thank you. Now we've got another question is, what is it like working for Natwest?
Yeah, so I may be biased, and coming up to 22 years, so it can't be all that bad. So no, I think it's a great organization. There's so many different elements to it. We've got so many different parts of the business that you can really get your teeth into. All the businesses are different. You've got corporate and commercial, retail, frontline, technology, services, Coots, RBS International. So there's a huge spectrum. I would say global. So we go out to India. we all across the UK and Ireland. We've got learning and development opportunities. So we've got a talent academy, group academy, wellbeing hub, financial hub, people to support you on a day-to-day basis. We've just been given a recharge day for the work that we've undertaken over the past 2 years. There's employee-led networks. It's like a little family in a way. So there's lots of offers that you can get available to you. Like I say, I might be biased, but I love working for NatWest. I've gone through various restructures and never wanted to leave, and I'm still here today. So, so I love it, and I hope you will too.
That's such a great response. It's really nice to hear when people have a really positive experience about the company where they're working for, and I think that really shows up whenever you're being interviewed as well. If the interviewer actually is very passionate about their company as well, it makes you more passionate and more positive during the interview process. So this is another question. How do I prep for situational based questions being new to finance and tech?
So again, I think it's part of the PowerPoint slide. I think if not everyone's going to have the experience. We understand that we're going through career switches. Everyone's been in different situations. Lots of people are new to finance. Lots of people are new to tech. The actual competency-based questions might not, or probably won't be focused on tech and finance. It's more broad than that. It's around working together. Are you change ready? Can you innovate? Can you change? Can you develop? So it's all about you rather than the actual business area that you've been in. But again, there's always the opportunity to reflect back to your own personal life. We've all got challenges within our own personal life, which we can bring about and bring to interview. So don't necessarily worry about not being too close to finance and tech. I think it's just about what it is you can bring to the table, and your attitude and your motivation is the biggest factor.
Brilliant. That's so great to hear. Now we've got another question. I'm quite interested on what you think about this as well. So if you don't hear back from a company after an interview, do you think it's best to follow up and ask for feedback?
I think it's always best to ask for feedback. And I think if you don't hear back from a company after interview, then perhaps it's not a company that you want to work for in the first place anyway. So I think it's always best to follow up and ask for feedback. You will then get, it will help you in your future endeavors. I think feedback's a huge part of the whole process, to be honest. And all of our guys and all of our interviewers will always take the time to come back to you, set up a call for that feedback session. Most of our interviews are with 2 individuals, and they will both come back to you with the feedback session. So, if you're not successful in an interview with NatWest, we will always help you to understand where it was that you fell down, what you can improve on, what you did well, and how we can help you going forward.
That sounds like such a positive experience, especially I think feedback is very important after an interview because everyone goes in feeling so nervous and wondering if they actually did well. So I think trying to, especially getting feedback from someone who's as experienced, it's great. I think that's a really, really good idea. And we've got another question, which is, if I had a 9-degree interview with NatWest in the past and didn't get it, can I apply again in the future?
I think it's probably one for Helen, but we have had conversations recently, and I think not everyone is successful at the first interview. To me personally, I think if you're applying again, that shows that you've got the motivation to work for the company. So why shouldn't you be given the opportunity? So I think for me, absolutely, if you didn't get on in the first instance, do reapply. You'll still go through the same process. So we still need to make sure that everyone follows the same path. But again, for me, it does show the motivation to actually work for the company, and shows commitment, really. So absolutely do apply again.
That sounds really great. Just as a quick sort of follow-up on that, I'm sure that there'll be a lot of competition for all of these roles. Do you think there's a certain way, or if there's any sort of attributes that you think will help people to stand out from the competition, things that will help people stand out from all those that you're interviewing?
Yeah, so I think what stands out, I think if you've done your research and you understand the company, understand the area that you're looking to progress into, I think those are two great indicators of really standing out. If you can touch base with the interviewer will always make contact with you in the first instance to arrange the interview. So, it's quite a good idea to make contact with them, have a quick chat with them, half an hour, just to run through the interview process, get to ask some questions ahead of the interview. So I think those are the two things that would really help you stand out against other individuals.
Brilliant, thank you. So just some questions specific about the NatWest interview. So you said that there's usually 2 people on the panel asking the questions. How long does a usual interview last, and sort of what's the sort of structure of an?
So generally an interview will last about an hour.
Okay.
You'll have questions, a couple of questions just around what you know about the role, what motivates you. You'll have your 3 competency-based questions. Now that you won't get those questions up front, so that's why we say just make sure you've got kind of a suite of answers that you can kind of tailor to the question that you're asked. Again, listen to the question, make sure you answer the question. That's why I say write the question down if possible, and just refer back to that as you're giving your answer. And then it comes down to questions and answers. So what questions have you got for the interviewer? Try to come with 2 or 3 questions. Again, it just shows that you're interested and would like to know more.
Brilliant. So that's actually a bit the part of the interview that I usually struggle with, is trying to come up with a good question for the interviewers. So have you had any questions that you thought were really good, or any questions that sort of go the other way that you thought weren't so good?
So I think questions that are good, so asking about the team structure. Where do you see the team in 3 years' time? What is your 3-month plan or 6-month plan? Really showing an interest in the area that you're looking to develop in. Training and development as well is another good question to ask. We are a purpose-led learning organisation, so we've got lots of opportunity for people if they are interested in further career development. Probably the one question I wouldn't ask is around salary, and I think that would be the one question that I'd say probably don't go into an interview desperate to ask a question about salary.
That's such a great point, I think. So sort of following on from that, rather than sort of the end of the interview, just in the beginning, how do you think what should the candidate do to make a good first impression?
So I think be confident, and again, it comes down to your research. Be confident in what you've done or the subject that you are discussing. Be confident in the company and your knowledge of the company, and all of that will really come to the front as you're going through the interview, and I think that will really stand you in good stead.
That's great. So we've got another question from the audience. So in an in-person interview or over Zoom, if the interview is live, is it appropriate to write the question down and take a bit of time to think about your answer?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you're quite within your rights to take notes in with you on the interview. If it's face to face or over Zoom, just ask the question at the outset, and it will always be a blanket yes. We're quite happy for you to bring notes. Obviously, don't sit and read the notes all the way through word for word, but just use some bullet points. But yeah, in terms of the actual question, take your time, write the question down. If you need to take a sip of water, just to give yourself a bit of time to reflect and think about your answer. Another tip, maybe just ask the interviewer to reread the question as you're writing it down. Give yourself plenty of time just to think about your answer. They're not always complicated questions, but no one can be expected to come up with an answer on the spot without any thought. So yeah, just give yourself a bit of time, write the question down, and just refer back to it as you're answering the question.
Brilliant. So we've actually got another question. So it's a follow-up from what we were discussing earlier. Is there any point in the interview when it's all right to ask or discuss about salary, or do you think that's something that should be done after?
So I think So personally, I would salary ranges tend to be published.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question around salary would probably be after the interview. So if you're successful at interview, potentially there's an option to negotiate on salary. I think that will come down to the individual business areas. But yeah, I think it would be after the interview opposed to during the interview.
Brilliant, thank you. So now I sort of wanted to switch gears and ask a little bit more about you and your interviewing experience. So, I mean, do you have any memorable interviews that sort of you've given, or any sort of notes that you've had?
I think for me personally, I've not always been successful at interview, and I don't know many people that have been successful at every interview they've always been on. But this comes back to the feedback session, and it's really important, I think, to listen to that feedback and take on board that feedback. Then you'll be ready for the next one. So generally, if you're going for an interview, there's quite a high probability that you'll go, if you're not successful, you'll get another interview quite quickly somewhere else, or within the same organization. So get that feedback session done early, take on board the feedback you're given, and try and deliver on that the next time.
That's a great point. So I guess we can dive a little bit into your background and the fact that you've been at Natwest for so long. Can you tell us a little bit more about your whole journey?
Yeah, so as I say, I started 21 years ago, March 2000, just as Royal Bank of Scotland were taking over Natwest at the time. Started in the account management centre. I was there for 5 years, 4.5, 5 years. Moved to retail credit, as it was at that point in time. So we were looking at personal lending, loan applications. Then moved into business and commercial. So we're looking at companies with turnover up to £2 million and debt below 50 million. So that was quite a learning experience, getting to understand financials and non-financials as well. So non-financials just as important as the financials. So comes back to the interview process. You need to know the individuals that you're working with and working for. I then moved into working for the executive of the Southwest Corporate and Commercial Division. So I was business manager there. Moved into what was Williams and Glyn, formerly the RBS sort codes prior to the sell-off. And then, so I was a performance and business manager for mid-corporate division in Midlands, going all the way down to Truro, down in Cornwall. And then more recently, having been put at risk of redundancy, moved into business enablement. So working on lots of project work around resourcing, and now the lead on the partnership with Code First Girls. So really exciting times. Lots of variety in my roles. I'm really excited. I've not had a role that I didn't enjoy, and I think that tells you something about the organisation as a whole. So, you know, a real great place to work, I think, would be the overarching message that I can deliver, really.
That's so great to hear. And you've had such an interesting journey with so many roles. Do you have any advice or anything you tell yourself before you actually started working at the bank?
No, I think the only advice is be the best that you can be. Not everyone's got a plan of where they want to be, but if you can have a 2 to 5 year plan and try and stick to that and try and develop yourself as much as possible. I think every day is a school day, and take on as much information as possible, and really take on board all of the opportunities that are available to you. Make sure that your CV is up to date, and yeah, everything that comes your way, jump on it. Really take it on board and continue to develop yourself.
I think that's great. So I guess following on from that, when an interviewer asks where you see yourself in the next 5 years or so, what do you do if you don't really have a set plan?
So I think that's where try and have a plan, I think, would be the first thing. But as I say, not everyone's got a plan. I think development, self-development, you know, if you're starting in a role, then you probably want to be there 2 years to develop, to understand the role that you're in at the moment, develop and understand the areas that are available to you. Do a good job where you are at the moment. I think that would be a key attribute. And then I think your own development will kind of follow on from that and take its own course if you've not got your own plan. Some people have got 5, 10, 15 year plan and know exactly where they want to be. Other people don't know where they're going to be in 3 to 6 months. So everyone's different. Everyone reacts differently to different situations. But again, it comes back to just be the best that you can be and continue to develop yourself and strive to be the best that you can.
That's a great response. So sort of following on from that, if someone in 5 years sort of says that their 5 year plan is to potentially set up their own business or do something more entrepreneurial, should they be honest about that? Should they say, I want to stick to more the industrial side of things? How would they navigate that?
So I think at Natwest, they're probably in a great position. I think entrepreneurship and startups a key focus for Natwest, and there's a huge amount of resource available to everyone if that is the route that they want to take. So there's loads of opportunities. We've got hubs across the country to help people develop in that way. You know, you don't have to continue to work for Natwest if that's not the path that you choose to go down. But there are lots of opportunities, and there's lots of people available to help you in whichever path that you decide to go down.
Brilliant, thank you. So we have a question about the nano degree. So are there any remote options or any contract working alongside NatWest? So I know the roles here are for London and Edinburgh. Are there any remote options potentially?
Potentially, yeah. You know, we've got lots of people working from home at the moment and working remotely. It comes down to the business area and the roles that are available at a time and the work that's required at that point in time. I couldn't give a definitive at the moment. It would depend on which area you were looking to move into, but we certainly do have a large proportion of people working from home. We've got all the equipment. Everyone's got the ability to log on remotely. So it is certainly an option that is available. But I'd just say, and kind of caveat that to say that it is down to the individual business areas that you're looking to move into.
Brilliant. So I think we should just finish off with one last question. So because you've worked in such a large range of areas, what's the most exciting project that you've worked on with NatWest?
I'll be honest and say probably the project that I'm working on at the moment. So you know, or the team that I'm working in at the moment, rather than an actual project. You know, we're looking at building strategic workforce plans. We're looking at building and devising a process so that teams and business areas know where they are now, know where they need to be in or want to be in 6 to 12 months' time, and really from a resourcing position, be able to confidently say, this is the demand, this is the supply that we've got at the moment, this is what's available, and to truly be able to understand the current resourcing picture and make sure that we've got enough headcount and individuals to undertake the work that we've got on board at the moment. And then obviously the work with Code First Girls and the ongoing partnership and relationship there in developing individuals and bringing them into the business. We've had 32 come in so far, so we've got 3 more cohorts in 2022, and we're really excited about that relationship and continuing to grow that partnership over that period of time.
We're very excited too. There's been so much positive feedback in the comments about the nano degree, so we're really looking forward to this partnership. And I think that's all that we have for the MOOC today. Just for everyone to know, this session will be live and we will be providing a PDF by the end of it. So the session will be live for around a week or so after, so feel free to take your notes after then. But thank you very much, Fran. That was great.
No, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks.